You think she's mad. You think you did something wrong. But here's the truth. She's not angry, she's craving something. She wants to feel, to connect. And sometimes, the only way she knows how is through chaos. If you've ever asked yourself, why does she start fights when everything's fine? Why does peace feel so short-lived with her? Then this video is for you. Because once you understand what's really going on inside her nervous system, her psychology, her emotional code, you'll stop being confused and start being in control. We're going deep into why conflict is her language of connection, why your calm drives her insane, and why emotional drama turns her on in ways even she doesn't realize. This isn't about blaming women. It's about understanding the biological difference between how men and women process intimacy and why your instinct to avoid the fight might be the very thing that fuels it. If you've ever been pulled into arguments that felt pointless, if you've ever walked away wondering, what just happened? Or worse, you started to question your own worth, stick around. Because when you finish this video, you'll never look at conflict or connection the same way again. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And let's get into the psychology, the strategy, and the Stoic mindset behind what's really going on when she creates drama. Number 1. Why her drama turns you on without you realizing it. Have you ever noticed how, after a heated fight, something changes in the way she looks at you? The tension lingers, but so does a strange kind of closeness. Her voice softens, her eyes linger a little longer. It doesn't make logical sense, but something about that emotional storm makes her feel more connected, and strangely, it does something to you too. Let's be honest, her drama doesn't just irritate you, it pulls you in, maybe not consciously. Maybe you hate the yelling, the chaos, the sudden mood swings, but deep down there's a part of you that reacts. Your blood pressure rises, your senses sharpen, your presence heightens. It's a surge, it's intensity, and whether you like it or not, your body treats it like stimulation. That's because drama isn't just noise, it's energy. It's emotional adrenaline, and your nervous system registers it, even if your rational mind is trying to shut it down. Here's what most men don't realize. Her drama is a form of connection. She's not picking a fight just to hurt you. She's pulling you into emotional engagement. In her world, emotional intensity equals intimacy. The fire, the reaction, the confrontation, it tells her that you still care, that you still feel something, that she still has power over your attention. It's twisted, but it's real. And your reaction, whether anger, frustration, or even withdrawal, feeds that loop. That's why when you go cold and silent, it drives her insane. Not because she hates the quiet, but because silence feels like rejection. Indifference feels like abandonment. And for her, being ignored is worse than being yelled at. And here's where it gets deeper. That same energy, that chaos when resolved or even temporarily paused, releases a chemical shift. Her stress hormones drop. Oxytocin rises. That, after the fight, softness you feel. It's not fake. It's biochemistry. It's bonding through emotional turbulence. You might be wondering, so what? Am I supposed to enjoy the drama? That's not the point. The point is to understand what's happening beneath the surface, so you don't get dragged into her storm without an anchor. Stoicism teaches one powerful truth. You are not your reactions. You are not the puppet of your emotions or hers. When you understand that, you take your power back. The mistake most men make is trying to solve her emotions with logic. But she's not in logic mode, she's in feeling mode. And when you try to fix her feelings with calm reasoning, she doesn't feel seen. She feels dismissed. That's why it escalates. So what do? You stay present. You stay grounded. You recognize the emotional pull without giving into it. You don't match her fire with fire, but you also don't vanish. You hold your frame. You listen, not to validate irrationality, but to show that you're unshaken. And ironically, That's what calms her down. Not your agreement, not your apologies, but your presence, your energy. That's what she's really chasing. Because in that energy, that attention, that reaction, she feels alive. She feels wanted, desired. It's not always healthy, but it's human. And it affects you too. That moment when her voice softens, when her eyes relax, when the war is over for now, that's the hook. That's what keeps you coming back. Even if you say you hate drama, a part of you associates it with passion, with chemistry, with closeness. So what's the solution? Awareness, discipline, and emotional leadership. Be the calm in her storm, not the storm she controls. Understand that her drama is a test but not of your patience. It's a test of your presence, your masculinity, your ability to stay centered when the emotional ground shakes. Because when you do, when you stay rooted in your power, her voice softens, not out of fear, but because she finally feels safe. And that more than any argument you could whine is how you lead. Comment, I've felt that, if this hit something real for you. Now let's move on to something most men never realize about her silence. Number 2. She doesn't want peace, she wants a reaction. Let's get something straight. Peace is not her priority. She might say she wants a calm relationship, a stable connection, no more fights, but her behavior says something completely different. And if you're paying attention, you've already noticed this pattern. It starts when things seem to be going well. There's no conflict. Everything feels steady. You're thinking, finally, we're in a good place. And then out of nowhere she pokes. She criticizes. She accuses. She brings up old issues. It feels random, but it's not. It's driven by something deeper inside her, a craving for emotional engagement. Here's the truth most men overlook. For her, emotional peace can feel like emotional distance. Calm can feel like disconnection. The stillness that you find comforting she finds threatening. Why? Because intensity makes her feel alive. And when the emotional waters go still, she starts to panic. So what does she do? She stirs the water. This isn't always conscious. Most of the time, she doesn't even realize she's doing it. But at a deep, subconscious level, her nervous system is wired to seek feedback. When that loop goes quiet, she throws out emotional hooks, not because she wants clarity, but because she needs to feel you react. Think about this. You're sitting on the couch. She looks at you and says, "Do you even care about us anymore?" You didn't do anything. But now she's scanning your face, waiting. Not for answers, but for energy, for proof, for a spark of emotion. This is what Stoicism calls the dichotomy of control. You can't control her behavior, but you can control your response. Epictetus would tell you, it's not what happens that disturbs you, but your interpretation of it. Here's where most men fall into one of two traps. First, you fight back. You argue, raise your voice, try to win. Second, you go silent, shut down, walk away. Either way, she wins the game of emotional escalation. In one path, you give her drama. In the other, you give her rejection. But what if you did neither? What if you stayed right there, not cold, not reactive, but steady? What if you looked her in the eye and said, "I'm not going anywhere, but I'm not playing that game either"? You see, she doesn't actually want chaos. What she really wants beneath all that is to feel something. She wants to know she can still stir you, that she still has a place inside your emotional world. It's not about logic. You explaining how things are fine won't cut it. You saying, "But everything's okay," won't land. She's not in logic mode. She's in emotional inquiry. And when you respond with sterile calm, it's like giving cold silence to a burning question. Stoicism doesn't teach you to run from feeling, it teaches you to master it. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." That's what you need to bring, not cold indifference, but warm, immovable presence. When she throws the fire, don't throw water or gas. Just stand firm in who you are. Here's a real-life example from a client I coached. He kept saying, "I don't get it. When I stop arguing and just ignore her, things get worse." Of course they did. To her, silence felt like punishment. What changed everything was when he learned to engage without escalating. He'd say, "I'm not angry, but I'm here. If you need to talk, I'll listen. If you want to fight, I'm not interested." That shift in tone gave her what she needed: presence without handing over power. When you offer calm with connection, not coldness, you become irresistible, because you're doing something rare, leading emotionally. You're not submitting, you're not dominating, you're leading. And when a woman feels that, when she feels your presence without chaos, the drama starts to dissolve on its own, not overnight, but steadily, because her nervous system begins to trust yours. Comment, "I lead now." Say it, own it, claim it. And if this hit you deep, don't go anywhere. The next part might change the way you see her entire idea of desire. Number 3, how conflict makes her feel desired. Here's a paradox most men never see coming. When you argue with her, she often feels more connected to you than when you're quiet and agreeable. Sounds backwards, right? But for many women, conflict isn't just chaos, it's intimacy. Let's break it down. Picture this. She brings up something you said last week. You barely remember it. To you, it was a throwaway comment. But now it's become a full-blown discussion. She's emotional. You're confused. You think, why is she turning this into a thing? But from her side, the moment matters because it's emotionally charged, and where there's emotional charge, there's connection. To her, intensity equals attention, and attention equals desire. Here's what most men miss. When she initiates conflict, she's checking for presence. Not just your physical presence, but emotional availability. She wants to know if she still has access to your emotions, especially the deeper ones. That's why neutral, surface-level conversations don't satisfy her. She wants to feel your depth, even if it comes wrapped in fire. That's why when you fight, she may lean in closer. Why her touch is warmer after tension. Why your most passionate moments often follow your most difficult ones. It's not manipulation, it's biology. The female brain is more attuned to social cues, emotional shifts, and interpersonal dynamics. When you raise your voice or get emotionally involved in a conflict, her brain registers that as engagement, as investment, as proof that you still care. Here's the Stoic part. Your emotions are signals, not commands. Marcus Aurelius taught us that emotions are natural, but our response is our responsibility. So when you feel pulled into the heat of a conflict, remember, you can choose how to show up without losing control. Back to her. For many women, emotional friction creates emotional certainty. The moment you push back, she feels the energy between you again. And energy, even in the form of conflict, affirms her relevance in your world. You're still affected. She still matters. Now let's be clear, this doesn't mean you should pick fights or entertain toxic behavior. That's not power. That's chaos. What it means is this. If she's seeking intensity to feel desired, then starving her of connection doesn't help. It just confuses her and pushes her to provoke you harder. The healthy move isn't to retreat, it's to reframe. Let conflict become a signal, not a trigger. Ask yourself, what's really underneath her words? What's she trying to feel right now? Is it safety, passion, certainty? A man grounded in Stoicism listens for what's not being said. He doesn't get baited, he gets curious. Here's a real-world example. You've had a long day. You walk in, and she says, "You never notice anything anymore." Your instinct is to defend yourself. "What are you talking about? I just brought you dinner yesterday." But what she's really saying is, "I want to feel seen. I want to feel wanted." If you react with defensiveness, she feels distance. If you respond with grounded attention, she feels desired. And that's the core of this whole thing. She wants to feel desired. And conflict, twisted as it may seem, is one of the quickest ways to gauge that. But you don't have to let conflict control the relationship. You can let it guide you toward deeper leadership, toward more meaningful connection. That's where emotional strength becomes sexual magnetism. When she feels that you're not afraid of her storms, that you're anchored, no matter what she melts. Because in that steadiness, she feels most desired. Not for what she looks like, not for what she gives, but for the way she moves you. Even if that movement begins in friction. Now, think about your own past. Have you ever had a moment where a heated argument somehow led to one of the most intimate nights you've had together? That wasn't an accident. That was tension turning into passion. That was emotional risk creating emotional return. You don't need to seek drama to get there. But you do need to understand why, for her, emotional friction often feels like desire. The trick is to lead her through it, not get lost in it. Let her feel the spark, but let you hold the flame. Because when you do that, you show her something most men can't. You're emotionally awake, but not emotionally owned. Comment: I feel power. If you know what it means to stay steady while the room shakes. And keep watching. What you're about to learn next could flip how you think about attraction itself. Number 4. When she starts a fight, she's really saying this. You hear her raise her voice. You see her start pacing. Maybe she's bringing up things from 2 weeks ago or even 2 years ago. You're thinking, why is she making this into a fight? But that's the surface. Underneath the drama, the accusations, and the heat, she's actually saying something much softer, much more vulnerable. She's saying, do I still matter to you? This is where most men miss the signal. We take her words at face value. She says, you never listen, and we reply, that's not true. She says, you don't care, and we get defensive. But none of those words are the real message. The fight is just a cover for the question she's too afraid to ask directly. And that question is, are you still emotionally here with me? When she starts a fight, she's reaching. She's throwing out hooks, seeing what catches. It's messy, it's emotional, but it's her way of testing the depth of your connection. And yes, it's exhausting, but it's also revealing. Think of it like this. The stronger the reaction she tries to pull from you, the more insecure she's likely feeling underneath. And if your reaction is cold detachment, she spirals even deeper, because now she's not just unsure you've confirmed her worst fear, she's emotionally alone in the relationship. This is where Stoicism gives you an edge. Instead of reacting to her words, you learn to read her intention. Instead of being thrown around by the waves, you drop anchor. Marcus Aurelius wrote, whenever someone does wrong by you, remember, he acts this way because he believes it's the right thing to do. Apply that here. She's not trying to hurt you. She's trying to connect with the only emotional tools she knows. Let's ground this in a real-life scenario. You come home tired. She says, you're always working. I feel like you don't even care anymore. You start explaining your schedule. You justify. You defend. But she's not looking for a calendar. She's looking for reassurance. A simple present moment of, I know, I've been distant. I'm here now. Sometimes the fight is just a cry for presence. And when you respond not with submission or escape, but with calm, anchored leadership, you shift everything. You let her emotional wave crash against something solid. And that's what helps her settle. But make no mistake, this isn't about becoming her emotional sponge. You're not there to absorb her chaos. You're there to lead the emotional tone of the room. That's the masculine role in her storm. Not silence, not aggression, but containment. Containment doesn't mean controlling her. It means holding space for her emotional energy without losing your own. That's power. That's presence. That's what makes her feel safe and, strangely, more attracted to you in the aftermath. So the next time she starts a fight, ask yourself, what is she really saying beneath these words? If you can answer that not just with logic, But with calm masculine presence, you flip the dynamic. You're no longer fighting against her, you're leading through it. Comment: I see this. A few words, but they show you've stopped just hearing and started understanding. And hey, if this message hits home, don't just watch. Subscribe to the channel now and join the Stoic Brotherhood, where we take these lessons into real life with tools, strategy, and support. We're just getting started. Stick around. Number 5. The secret power behind her emotional triggers. You've seen it happen. A small comment, a slight shift in your tone, a delay in your reply. Suddenly, she's reacting: big tears, accusations, anger, and you're left thinking, how did it go from that to this? The truth is, her emotional triggers aren't random. They're powerful signals. They're windows into what she values, fears, and longs for most. And if you're paying attention, they reveal everything you need to know about how to lead the relationship with strength. Let's start here. Triggers are not weaknesses, they're emotional sensors. When something hits her hard, it's because it touches a nerve. That nerve might be old, connected to a wound from years ago, or it might be resented to your dynamic with her. Either way, the intensity of her reaction tells you it matters. The Stoic doesn't dismiss emotion, he studies it. Seneca said, "No man is more unhappy than he who never faces adversity, for he is not permitted to prove himself." When she's triggered, that's your adversity. That's your moment to either escalate or embody mastery. So, what's the power behind her emotional triggers? Connection. Her reaction is a flare. It says, this part of me is unprotected. She might not say it that clearly, but it's what she's showing you. Her trigger points are where she feels the most unsafe, and also where she craves the deepest connection. Think about it. Why would someone lash out over a text you didn't answer fast enough? It's not the delay, it's the meaning behind it. She's afraid she's not a priority. She's afraid you're pulling away. The real trigger isn't the phone, it's her feeling invisible. Here's where most men go wrong. You get logical. You say, it was only 20 minutes. You show proof. You explain. But in that moment, she doesn't need proof. She needs presence. You trying to fix her emotion feels like you're rejecting it. And rejection, especially when she's triggered, amplifies everything. Instead, what if you paused and said, it wasn't my intention to make you feel forgotten. You matter. Simple, present, grounded, not defensive, not apologizing for existing, just acknowledging the emotion and staying calm in it. That's where your power is. In how you respond when her emotions spike. Your job isn't to walk on eggshells, it's to understand what shakes her and remain unshaken. Let me give you a real example. A man I coached was frustrated that every time he said, I need space, his girlfriend broke down. She'd accuse him of abandoning her. He thought she was overreacting. But when he finally asked her, what comes up for you when I say that? She admitted that her father used to disappear every time things got tough. Her trigger wasn't his request, it was her memory. Once he understood that, he changed his delivery. Instead of pulling away coldly, he said, I care about you. I need a bit of time to think, but I'm not going anywhere. That one shift, reassurance with clarity, stopped 80% of the fights. Why? Because he saw what the trigger was really about. So here's the Stoic lesson. Don't fight the emotion. Decode it. Don't collapse under the trigger. Use it to lead. You'll notice that when she feels seen in her vulnerable spots, she softens, the fight fades, and something else shows up: trust. And here's the part nobody tells you. When she trusts you with her triggers, she becomes more open sexually, emotionally, energetically. That's the hidden door. Not domination, not submission, but emotional security. Because when she knows that her worst moments don't push you away, when she sees that her fire doesn't scare you, you become the one place she can finally relax. That's power. Comment: I lead calmly. If you felt the shift from chaos to connection, don't stop now. The next part may unlock something you didn't even know she needed from you. Number 6. Drama is her way of testing your masculinity. Let's get this out of the way. Not all drama is toxic. Sometimes it's a test, not of your patience but of your power. When she starts a seemingly irrational argument, throws emotional curveballs, or challenges something you thought was settled, it's not always about the surface issue. It's often about this: can you handle me at full intensity? That's the real question underneath the chaos. She's not always looking for resolution. Sometimes she's checking your frame. She's watching to see what breaks first: your voice, your energy, or your center. And this is where most men fumble. You either react snapping back, matching her fire, or you retreat shutting down, pulling away, going cold. And both responses send the same signal: you're not stable. But when you stay grounded, when your energy holds while she spirals, that's when she feels it. Not control, not dominance, but respect and attraction. Because drama, for her, isn't just chaos. It's the forge. And you're the metal. Stoicism teaches us that real strength isn't in shutting emotions down, it's in staying solid through them. Marcus Aurelius didn't preach suppression, he preached self-command. That's what she's checking for. Let's make this real. She says, "Why don't you ever open up? You feel accused. You want to defend yourself. But instead you breathe. You stay present. You say, 'You're right, I've been distant. I want to change that. Let's talk.'" Oh, that moment? That's power. Or maybe she snaps at you in front of others. You feel that flash of anger. But instead of embarrassing her or shutting her down, you say nothing until later. And then, privately, calmly, you say, "That didn't sit well with me. I want us to handle things with more respect." That's not weakness. That's masculine containment. See, drama is rarely about the specific words. It's about pressure testing the container. She wants to know, when things get messy, are you still safe? Can you hold space when she can't? Will you lose yourself or lead yourself? This is where Stoic masculinity shines. Because you don't collapse. You don't avoid. You lead. But let's be clear, this isn't about tolerating endless chaos. It's about reading her cues before you draw your lines. Most men confuse being calm with being numb. They think being masculine means being unbothered, robotic, cold. But that's not strength. That's just shut down. True masculine power is feeling everything without being ruled by anything. It's presence, awareness, warmth under control. And when you show up like that, something changes in her. She no longer fights to feel your strength because she already feels it. She no longer throws tests because you've already passed them. That's when she relaxes. That's when she softens. That's when she becomes more feminine, more trusting, more open. Because she's not pushing against your chest anymore. She knows what's behind it. Stability. And maybe now you understand why she sometimes calms down after the fight. It's because, in her mind, you passed. You didn't run. You didn't blow up. You stayed. And that, to her, is masculinity. Comment: I stay steady. If you've learned to keep your center, no matter what's thrown at you. And listen, what's coming next may explain why silence, used the right way, can be more powerful than any comeback. You don't want to miss it. Number 7. Why she gets closer after the worst fights. You've seen it before. You just had one of the ugliest fights ever. Harsh words were exchanged. She cried. You went silent. Maybe someone slammed a door. It felt like everything was falling apart. But then hours later she's soft, sweet, touching you more, laughing again, wanting to be close. And you're left thinking, what just happened? It makes no logical sense. How does emotional chaos turn into intimacy? Here's what most men never understand. In the wreckage of that fight, she finally feels your truth. Not the polished version of you, not the man trying to say the right thing, but the real you. Raw, present, unfiltered. And to her, that's intimacy. Let's break this down. For many women, emotional intensity equals emotional realness. They associate strong feelings, especially shared vulnerability, with deep connection. So when that fight pulls your walls down, even just for a second, she sees you. And what she sees? That's what pulls her in. She doesn't want chaos. She wants truth. When the polished version of you breaks, when the guard comes down, when she sees your frustration, care, fire and pain, in one wave she doesn't just see conflict, she sees depth, and that's rare. Stoicism doesn't tell us to avoid these moments, it tells us to be present in them. Marcus Aurelius said, "You don't have to turn this into something, it already is what it is." In other words, stop resisting emotional chaos. Witness it, learn from it. That's where the real bond happens. But let's be clear, it's not the fight itself that brings her closer, it's how you handled it. If you shouted, blamed, shut down for days, she feels abandoned. But if you stayed grounded, felt it, faced it, but didn't flee or collapse, she feels something powerful. Safety. And when she feels safe with your truth, your fire, your storm, she trusts you. Let's talk about this in real life. One man I coached told me, "Every time we fight, I think she's done. But the next day, she's more affectionate than ever." It's confusing. But it's not confusing. It's primal. In the fight, she sees who you are underneath the performance. And if she sees strength under pressure, she bonds. Because now she knows when it gets hard, you don't vanish. You're still there. Still solid. Still choosing her. That's the proof she needs. It's not drama she's addicted to, it's the confirmation she gets after you survive the storm together. This is where Stoic masculinity shines. Because you're not emotionally avoidant, you're emotionally anchored. You can feel fully, speak clearly, and never lose yourself in her waves. And when you show up like that, even after a fight, she doesn't just come back. She leans in closer, because now she's not confused. She's reassured. You showed her something that makes her body soften, her tone shift, her energy open. You didn't run. That's the win. That's the attraction trigger no pickup line can replicate. So the next time she reaches for you after a war of words, don't be shocked. You just gave her what she was looking for the whole time. Truth. Stability. You. Comment. I don't run. Say it if you've ever felt that deeper connection after the fire cleared. And stick around. The next part might just rewire the way you understand female attraction entirely. Number 8. How she uses your anger to feel wanted. Here's something most men never realize. When you get angry, really angry, it doesn't always scare her off. Sometimes it pulls her closer. Because in her mind, your anger doesn't just mean you're upset. It means you care. Now let's be clear. This isn't about toxic outbursts, shouting, or control. That's weakness, not strength. This is about the emotion underneath anger. Frustration, urgency, desire. When a woman sees a man react not with cruelty, but with intensity, what she often feels is not fear. It's validation. Because in a world where indifference kills attraction faster than anything, your fire proves she still matters. And that's powerful. Let's unpack this. Women are emotionally wired to seek connection through reaction. If you're cold, distant, and unbothered, she starts wondering, does he still want me? Am I invisible to him now? Did I lose my place in his heart? But when you show a flash of real emotion, when something she does gets under your skin, it can trigger a deep instinct in her. You still move him. That doesn't mean she's trying to provoke you. But if she's feeling emotionally disconnected, she might subconsciously do things to test your reaction. Why? Because your reaction tells her if the bond is still alive. Let's use an example. Say you're out together. She starts being a little too playful with another guy, just enough to make you notice. If you act like nothing happened, she might actually feel more unsafe in the relationship. Because apathy equals distance. But if you look her in the eye and calmly say, "That didn't sit right with me. I expect more from you," it sends a message that cuts deeper than any passive silence. You're still important to me. You're still mine. That emotional charge, that's what she feels. Stoicism doesn't ask you to suppress anger. It asks you to lead it. Seneca said, "Anger, if not restrained, is frequently more hurtful to us than the injury that provokes it." So what's the real move here? You don't hide the fire. You harness it. You direct your energy not wildly, but with intention. That's the kind of man she wants to follow. Not someone who bottles everything up, not someone who explodes randomly, but someone whose emotions are alive and anchored. When she sees you can feel without losing control, she feels something rare, wanted and safe at the same time. And that's the balance that pulls her toward you. Because the truth is, she doesn't want perfection. She wants presence. She wants to feel that her presence still touches yours. And sometimes your anger, when expressed with power, not punishment, does exactly that. Comment, "I channel power." Say it if you've ever felt stronger after holding your fire the right way. And trust me, what's coming next flips a script you didn't even know you were stuck in. Number 9. Why she'll never be attracted to a calm man. This one's going to sting for some of you. Because maybe you've done everything right. You stayed calm. You gave her space. You avoided conflict. You never raised your voice. And still, she pulled away. She got distant. Or, worse, she said those words that cut deep. "You're too nice." Let's decode that. When she says nice, she doesn't mean kind. She means bland, emotionally dull, predictable, safe but forgettable. And here's the part men miss. She doesn't crave calmness. She craves aliveness. You thought being peaceful would keep her. But what she actually wants is a man who stirs something in her. Not chaos, not drama, but intensity. An edge, a pulse, a fire she can feel. Stoicism isn't about being emotionless. It's about being emotionally sovereign. Marcus Aurelius didn't float through life like a Zen monk on sleeping pills. He felt. He just didn't fold. So if your version of calm is flat, dull, disconnected, she'll sense it. And slowly, her attraction will die. Here's what keeps the spark alive. Polarity. The dance between your edge and her energy. She wants a man who stays grounded, yes, but who also brings presence, conviction, fire with control. Let's put it another way. She doesn't want a storm. She doesn't want a robot. She wants a flame steady, alive, warm, and strong. Why do you think some women chase emotionally unavailable men? Not because they enjoy pain, but because those men feel real, unpredictable, charged, alive. Meanwhile, the guy who never rocks the boat, he becomes the emotional wallpaper, safe, but invisible. This doesn't mean you should become chaotic. It means you need to lead with tension, with presence, with charge. Let her feel your energy. Let her feel your restraint and the fire you're not unleashing. That's what she locks onto. That's what creates the magnetism. So no, she'll never be deeply attracted to a man who is only calm. She needs a man who can stand still and still burn. Comment, "I bring edge." Say it if you've ever realized calmness alone wasn't enough to keep her attention. Now what's next? It's the final piece. And it's the one that pulls every thread together. Number 10. The hidden addiction that makes her crave chaos. You've probably wondered, why does she stir things up when everything seems fine? Why the sudden tension? Why bring up old wounds out of nowhere? Is it just drama, immaturity, number? What you're seeing is deeper and it's real. It's an addiction to emotional chaos, driven by one powerful chemical, dopamine. Let's break it down. When an argument kicks off, her nervous system lights up, heart racing, voice raised, emotions all over the place. In that moment, she's not just mad, she's stimulated. Biologically, the human brain doesn't just chase pleasure, it craves intensity. And chaos chows delivers intensity fast. Especially for women who grew up in unpredictable households, had early relationships filled with emotional highs and lows. This kind of emotional roller coaster feels like home, not safe, but familiar. They're not addicted to pain. They're addicted to the spike, to the adrenaline, to the high-stakes emotional drama that feels real. Here's what happens in that loop. Fight, explosion, apology, reconnection, intimacy. Every time it happens, that pattern gets reinforced in her body. The chaos creates a storm, and then the closeness afterward feels deeper, more alive. It becomes a cycle, and like any addiction, it feeds on repetition. But here's where you come in. You don't break the cycle by matching her energy. You break it by doing the one thing that shocks her nervous system in a new way. You stay calm. You stay strong. You stay unavailable to the drama. You say, I care about you, but I'm not doing this again. Or, I see what's happening. I'm not going to add fuel to it. You don't stonewall her. You don't walk out mid-sentence. You stay present, but you don't participate in the chaos. And what happens next? At first, she'll escalate harder. She'll try to get the old reaction from you. But if you hold the line, if you lead instead of react, something begins to shift. She starts feeling safe in your stillness. She stops chasing the spike, because you're giving her something deeper than adrenaline. Trust. Stoicism isn't about silence, it's about order. Your inner world stays solid even when hers spins out. And when she realizes that she doesn't need chaos to feel seen, when she knows you'll be there without needing the war first, that's when the addiction breaks. That's when she stops craving drama and starts craving you. Comment, I break cycles. If you've seen this pattern and chose to lead instead of react. So if this video hit something real for you, if it explained what no one ever taught you about why women create drama and why your calm alone isn't enough, then don't just walk away from this. Subscribe to the channel, not just to watch, but to grow. Because we're building something bigger here. A space for men who lead with strength, not ego. Men who understand Stoicism isn't silence, it's power under control. Men who want deeper relationships, not just better tactics. And if you're ready to go even further, join the Stoic Brotherhood. Inside, we go deeper into emotional mastery, attraction dynamics, mental toughness, and how to live as a man of principle in a chaotic world. This isn't for everyone, but if it's for you, you'll know. Thank you for being here today. I appreciate your time and your focus. I'll see you tomorrow.